Oops, I was on mute. I said this is the CoLaBoRate anthem, which Jervis is now going to play.
Oh.
Jervis, there's no audio. Huh?
Yes, I asked Aaron to play again.
The pandemic has ruined business and has messed up the job situation.
Seriously, ma'am, just don't know what to do.
Something must work out.
CoLaBoRate. 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 Let's learn the way we'll do it. Let's learn to collaborate. Let's be the change and make the change. Liberate people, companies, employment your way. Let's collaborate. Let's collaborate. Let's collaborate. Let's collaborate. Alpha. He's a leader, big, bright, and fast. Beta. They support in every daunting task. Delta. They pitch and scout and warning and hunting. Omega. They look out for the next in line. We're running my company and building up my brand. It's always getting squares. They focus on the task at hand. So now my jungle's open to the rules among you. Opportunities to gain. Let's learn, grow, hunt, and play. I can work for dawn just as easily. Bow, but I do my work so professionally. Bow, I want work, but I want it my way. I'm a liberated associate on the techno highway. Let's learn the way wolves do it. Let's learn to collaborate. Let's be the change and make the change. Liberate people, companies, employment your way. Let's collaborate. 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 Let's collaborate.
Good evening. So welcome to the CoLaBoRate Talk Show, the 6th episode. And today I've got my youngest panel ever with the youngsters that I'm going to introduce to you to. So I'll start off with Suhail Vadgaonkar, Director Human Resources, Urban Company. So Suhail comes from a naval background and spent his younger days growing up in several naval bases across the country. Post-schooling, he went on to pursue a dream of being a hotelier and completed his hotel management at the Institute of Hotel Management, Mumbai. From there, he joined ITC Hotels and worked across the flagship properties of the chain. His background in customer experience and a fairly large risk-taking appetite led him to the fledgling startup that used to be called Urban Clap. Now it's the Urban Company, of course. With Urban Company, he has led the customer experience function. Subsequently, he also led brand and communication. And he moved into a people role very recently and sees himself as being a lifer at the Urban Company. And considering Urban has got funding for the next 3-4 years, I think that's a good idea. At least 3-4 years, I'm guessing. Next online is Sanchit. I don't think Sanchit's online yet. He was in a meeting and hopefully he will join us shortly. So Sanchit Gupta, business lead, BAS, Moving Smart Mobility and Energy Private Limited, a SAR group company. 8+ years of experience in developing winning comprehensive growth, marketing and business strategies, focused on achieving breakthrough sales objectives while creating unique market opportunities and managing business relationships. His core competencies include marketing and strategy, sales operations, business development, team building, data analytics, customer acquisition and retention, trade marketing, profit center operations, and modern trade. For Sanchit, learning is a continuous process and he performs well under pressure situations. Highly adaptive and a team player, his passion is work. The aim is to grow personally and professionally along with the organization goals. Sanchit is a writer, a fighter, and a believer of the fact that we create our own destiny. Last up is Rohan Deshpande, Associate Program Manager, Central Strategy, Zomato. Hospitality graduate with experience across various industries like hospitality, sales, account management, and program management with a flair for tech. Rohan, incidentally, is also from Dada Catering, where Suhail is also from, and so am I. At the age of 21, Rohan was one of the youngest assistant managers at the Park Hotels, handling a team of 35, moved to sales and account management at Zomato, and was the top performer in the Mumbai team. So welcome and to this 6th talk show of CoLaBoRate. In this webinar, we will be talking about tips, tricks, and techniques to up your gig game. Now, just to remind people, in case they don't know, gig is either a task-based or an hourly-based job that you take up, and you are paid according to it. I mean, just the hour or the task that you take up. So to give you an example, Zomato rider is paid per ride. Ola taxi driver is paid per trip. And I myself started off in the gig world. This was in 1990. At that time, we never even used that term. So I used to work for various caterers. I was running my own catering company, but because there was less work at that time, I used to do gigs for other caterers, and I even did longer gigs. So a gig can be anything from a few hours to a couple of months to even, you can constantly do gigs for a particular organization over a period of years. And I did for 2 organizations over a period of 10 years. Recently, the government has opened up this gig space by defining what a gig worker is in a social security code that was released end of September. And recently in the finance announcements also, the finance minister mentioned that we are going to set up a portal to register gig workers. So this is going to be the new age phenomena that we're going to be seeing, where gig culture or gig economy, as it is known globally, is going to take off in India. Reminding you that in India, gig culture was always there, gig economy was also there, but it was in a sort of quasi-legal format because there were no laws directing it or governing it. To give you an example, the lady who comes to your house, the bai who comes to your house is a gig worker. The person who washes your car is a gig worker, right? Many of you would be from hotel management background, coming in on the Facebook live feed also. When you do your waitings, that's a gig. So, I mean, that's the new term for it, so to say, right? I'd like to open up the session now by starting off with my panelists. Has Sanchit signed in? Okay. Anyway, the first question is to Suhail, or rather, I'm going to open with Suhail. And Suhail, tell us how new age companies look at gig hiring vis-a-vis permanent or contractual jobs. This obviously need not be directly related to the Urban Company standard, but I'm talking about in general. How would a new age company look at the gig culture, gig hiring vis-a-vis permanent or contractual jobs? Suhail.
Well, Dominic, firstly, thanks for having me on this panel. It's good to be in a alumni network. Good to see folks from
IHM Mumbai.
So to answer, which at your time would have been known as Lala Catering.
Correct.
To answer your question, I think so. There are two ways of looking at it. What the company I work for, Urban Company, by itself is a gig platform, right? The endeavor of the platform has been to formalize the gig economy for blue collar and gray collared services, right? That is one aspect of it. Now, from an employee perspective, right? So we also employ 12 to 1300 full-time employees in the company. And we have seen that, with this generation, a lot of people do also have passions, right? Which they pursue. So one is you have a job. And if your job can be your passion, that's amazing. But that's not the case for everyone, right? There are people who are passionate about photography. There are people who are passionate about singing. There are people who are, I was having a conversation with our HR manager in Australia, and she has 2 gig jobs on the side. She bartends on the weekend, and she's also an eyelash artist. So if people have the time and people have the capacity to be able to pursue their passions outside their job, then I think it's a great thing, right? It also allows them to bring their best game to work every day. So that's our perspective. But from a platform, just looking at the platform, what we've tried to do is, for the gray and blue collar services, what is important is that we have been able to unlock their ability to earn, right? A certain amount above what they used to earn earlier, right? By just giving them more jobs to do on a daily basis. And that almost negates the need for permanent employment.
Okay. So I'll come back to you. I'd, in fact, have a question lined up for you already, but I'd bring Rohan in here. And Rohan, if you could tell us the delivery or ride trip model as we know it, where we hire we are hiring giggers for the last mile of services. So would you all consider moving it up, or have you all already done it for moving it up the hierarchy to, let's say, supervisory, strategy, managerial in the gig space?
So first and foremost, thank you so much, Dominic, for having me. I think this is a great seminar. I think a lot of people would learn a lot here. And I think I was also, when you told me about it, I also saw the recordings, and there was so much that I learned from it. So thank you so much for having me on the panel, first and foremost. To answer your question, I think there are 2 ways to look about it, right? One is, of course, so when you talk about a delivery boy, they have their flexibility to work whenever they want to and however they want to, and earn to whatever limit they want to, right? So if I want to earn 500 rupees tomorrow, I can decide to work all week long and earn that 500 rupees, or I can work 13 hours on the weekend and do it. It's my choice as to how I want to make that money. So that flexibility that is given to a gig worker, I think is a great asset for them. Now, when you talk about escalating them into roles of say supervisory or managerial levels, it depends from here. I think this is my personal perspective. Let me know if you feel any other way, but it depends from space to space and company to company. Now, for me, if I want to, so the supervisors that we have, so we have a fleet manager at Zomato who manages the onboard fleet, right? So now this person can also be a gig worker, because he essentially has to manage the fleet on ground and solve their issues, escalate those issues to the management, right? So I don't need someone who's going to be trained for 2 months to get that job going on, right? But when you now talk about strategy, startups have a lot of essential data and a lot of sensitive data, as you call it, that might not be that we might not want to let everyone know about. Not everyone in the company who are permanent employees know about it. So I'm not sure if a gig worker would be the right person in those particular roles, say a strategy role, because then letting them know of company data, and tomorrow you don't know if, of course you can place contracts in place, but that's again another legal issue that comes in. But at the same time, you have an organization like TEDx that works solely on gig workers, who have gig workers manage the entire. You have 5 people who work in a team who organize an event, and everyone else is gig worker, right? They put forth an entire event that you see. You have so many events that way. Comic Con works on a similar background, where you have only 10 people who are the core committee members, and everyone else is a volunteer, right? And these guys then come in, give their wherever they are placed, and um, then contribute to whatever their aspect is. So it depends, I think, again, from place to place. I'm not sure if a place with sensitive data might want to do it, but again, another company where this data is not so crucial might always think of it.
Okay, so I got you there on the data, but just to maybe for example, lawyers, that is your legal aid, your financial consultants in my company, for example, we outsource it, and these guys are trustworthy. I mean, they better be trustworthy or they won't be in the business.
No, 100%. So I think even for us,
I take your point about this when you're talking about sensitive data, especially the person is a gig worker in your organization, probably in a competitive space, right? Where there would be the conflict of interest coming in. Now, coming back to something Suhail said, which I was, literally itching to ask. So, Suhail, does your company allow people to also do gigs on the side? Because you mentioned about this lady in Australia who's into eyelash and bartending. So, it's perfectly okay with the organization, or does she need special permission to do it? And Rohan, you could also jump in on that.
It's perfectly okay, Dominic. As long as she doesn't have another form of permanent employment, that is, against the law. But it's fine, and as long as she's doing it outside her working hours.
Okay. So as a policy, your company allows it. So, for example, you also could be allowed to do a gig?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was saying, right? We do have, like, we've had someone who was a photographer. We have a couple of people who are designers, right? Designing lehengas and stuff during the wedding season.
Oh, okay.
So it happens.
And these are on
we have a couple of people who are influencers, right? Influencers are also gig workers.
Right. Okay, so now we've got a couple of people who would be listening in either live or the recording. Could you give me some trick that a gig worker could use? And I'm talking about above the line or below the line also. Any trick a gig worker could use to, get noticed? So I'm going to throw different questions. So to just get noticed, like, let's say I'm a great rider for one of you guys, and I want to get noticed, and maybe moved up to supervisor. What could I do? Either above the line or below the line, or if I'm a waiter in a hotel, because both of you are from HM background, and I was doing banquets, and I want to get noticed by the management and get probably pulled into a role as a higher gig worker, or maybe even as a permanent. What could I do?
So let me use some of an example that is very common at Urban Company, right? So we own the service experience end to end. So it goes from onboarding to training to giving them the supplies to delivery, right? Now training forms a very, very critical aspect of the entire experience and end service delivery. So we do have partners, our best performing partners, who get elevated to becoming trainers. And they're also on contract, right? It's not necessarily full-time payment. And what happens is that they will train for a couple of months and they will go back into being partners, because they of course make more money being partners and doing more jobs, right? But when the season is low, they have an opportunity to become trainers.
Oh, excellent.
Right? And then they have a fixed income that they're earning every month, as compared to nothing.
Okay, so you rope them into a fixed income role because at that time it's low season and you can move them into training probably. So what would the quality or the caliber of person you're looking for to to move him up to trainer or any other role that you look at? What's that one or two?
Silver bullet.
Yeah, what's the silver bullet?
It's actually ratings, right? So ratings and their scores on the platform are what help us identify the best performing partners, right? And the more number of jobs that they do, and the higher the rating, that means that obviously their average score per job is high, and they're delivering top quality jobs. So that helps us identify. Of course, tenure on the platform is also important, right? But the real sort of quality parameter are the ratings.
Okay. So this one's for Rohan. Rohan, Suhail, you could jump in also. But in Zomato, right, you've got your riders, you've got different people that you have in this. What would you say, and this is, you may not want to speak about Zomato only. So generally speaking, how do gig workers look at their satisfaction index? Are they happy with the money they're making, with the permanent employment, non-permanent employment? And I guess Suhail would want to jump in on this also. But satisfaction, job satisfaction.
So again, like I said, there are two aspects to it now. One is the money there. So right now, if you see, there are a lot of strikes going on because the petrol prices are up. Petrol prices in a lot of cities have gone up to 100 rupees. And now the riders, they want to be compensated equally. They have a particular earning per order that they have. And that doesn't include a lot of external factors. Of course, the regular factors like a weekend or festival is included, but I don't include my petrol prices in that. So essentially, when these prices went up, a lot of partners had an issue saying, hey, now we're not making money, or we're making way less money than we were going to earlier. So maybe you should adjust for that, right? So satisfaction comes because last mile delivery is a very challenging role. Satisfaction can be on various different scales. Yeah. So for someone making the 100 rupees or 200 rupees a day would be a satisfactory result, saying, hey, I spent 8 hours today and I made this much money. I think I'm happy. For someone else, it might also be, no, if I'm on the platform for 8 hours, I want to do the maximum orders. Why is someone else getting more orders than I am? So we have an NPI to kind of judge how happy they are, what we should improve, what we can, what are the changes that we should do. Some things, of course, we always put on ground. If whatever is possible, we immediately want to implement that. And I think with every company, that would be the same case, right? Something that is in your hand, and if you can implement, you would essentially want to do it right away to keep your. So they are our partners, right? We call them delivery partners for a reason, and not riders or executives, because they are working for us is why our company also works. Similarly, I think for UC also, they're called partners because we together collaborate and work, right? So their happiness is as important as a customer's happiness for us. They are also essentially a customer for us, right? If someone's happy, they're going to come back tomorrow and work more, and that's going to help my platform grow more.
So what you're saying is you look out for their happiness. You have to look out for their happiness, or you're not going to be happy.
Of course, because then if I don't, essentially they'll work for a while, but after that they'll get frustrated. And it's not that you don't have competition. So if the competition understands that, hey, this guy's not happy on their platform, let's try to adjust that on ours. You'll have this gig, because they have the flexibility, they'll always go to the other platform, right? And that's when you are to lose.
Okay, Suhail?
Dominic, so similar to what Rohan says, right? So for us, our customers are our partners. We don't earn from customers. We earn from partners. They are our bread and butter. And keeping them happy is very, very important. The other thing is that the social impact that we are trying to create, right? We are sort of uplifting the certain strata to the real place where they belong, right? We have, been able to unlock the potential of a beautician where she would be earning 20-25,000 a month, and taking her to that 50-60,000 mark, right? And it helps her go from it helps her go into another strata altogether. That is one. The second is that even while they are gig workers, it's very important for them to feel secure, right? If tomorrow something were to happen, it's important that the company backs them, right? And the pandemic was a good example, right? When the sort of services were put to a halt because of lockdown, these people suddenly stopped earning, right? And it was important for us to be able to take care of them. We've also, created stuff like group insurance, family insurance for them. We also have a mental health platform which they can use, which we pay for. And why is this? It's because that, and we don't have competition, right? But what happens is that the real marketing or the real evangelists of the platform are our partners. If they are happy, then the platform does well, right? And I think we've done a fairly decent job in the Fairworks report that came out this year. We were on top of it. We scored 8 out of 10, right? And hopefully we will put more effort as the platform grows, as our partner base grows. We'll be able to expand our efforts more into creating into giving them a sense of security, right? And helping them earn more.
Okay, just one quick question to both of you, and I want just a number if you're open to share it. How many gig workers with Zomato? How many gig workers with Urban Company? Just a ballpark figure. I don't need the.
I have around 1 lakh.
100,000. Wow.
We have 30,000.
Wow. So just 2 platforms, and you're holding so many people and growing. Now coming to back to the, we need to give these guys some tips, tricks. So let's say, for example, how would you balance if I'm a gig worker with one of you, right? And I need to create a brand for myself at least with the Urban Company. With Zomato, maybe not, because all riders are the same. But like Suhail pointed out, maybe you'll want to make him a trainer or something like that. So push. So is creating a brand for themselves as important as the brand itself creating a brand for itself? That means Urban Company or Zomato or Swiggy creating a brand for itself. But within that, the gig workers, do they need to create a brand for themselves to differentiate themselves from the others? How would it help them? How would they go about it?
No, Dominic. Actually, it's not important or necessary for them to create a brand for themselves at all, right? Because what happens is that what we have been able to create is a brand that allows them to get hired, right? And that's our promise, that, hey, you're good at what you do. You come onto the platform. We will help you refine your skills through an intense training, and then you work off the platform. And we actually we don't really allow customers to select their partner.
Okay.
We're like Uber, right? You get a partner assigned, but we have been very stringent with our quality measures into ensuring that if you hire a plumber today and you hire another one a month later, your experience is going to be the same.
Okay.
Right. So it's not important for them to create. What is important for them to ensure is that they get good ratings, right? And they also know that if they fall below a certain threshold, then they automatically get deactivated.
Okay. When you say deactivated, that means some sort of a blacklisting?
We don't blacklist. So what we do is, again, depending on the tenure, if there's a partner who's fairly new on the platform, then we take the partner back into training. And because we have enough data on each partner, we know exactly where he's struggling, right? Where is he? So when you put in a rating, if you put in a poor rating, you can identify some aspects which have not been done well. So that helps us understand what the training needs are, and we are able to train partners. So it's not that it's 0 or 1. We do give them enough chances. We do train them. But if they don't improve over a certain period of time, then of course they churn off the platform.
Okay. Rohan, you wanted to add something to that?
Yeah, so I think here I don't want to speak about say Urban Company or Zomato as a platform, because obviously these are aggregators, right, who help you to a certain. I want to talk about gig workers who work on their own, your freelancers, your artists, your poets, stand-up comics and I believe of course they need to create a brand for themselves. So again, you can segregate these gig workers into the type of job environment that they want to take up, right? So say for example you have someone who's a writer. Now for them it is very essential to ensure that their work is out there and known by people and their style is appreciated by people for them to be able to get another sort of gig
Gig.
sometime later, right? So if I'm writing well and I think, hey, I'm doing well, I want people to know. But if I don't maintain my brand, so I can't just go about and writing anything. My style is my style. So like a Quentin Tarantino movie is a Quentin Tarantino movie, and you see his style across different movies. You know how the movie is going to be, and that's why you have a repeat audience for it. I'm not going out and creating random content, So I think for these people, creating a brand is very, very essential. Where they essentially, so someone who's doing the creative aspect of it.
So I got you. So we've got one set of gig workers who would be under an umbrella of a brand and need not create branding for themselves.
Correct,
And we've got another umbrella of people who would be the actual giggers out there who need to create the branding.
Of course.
Perfect. So if we need to create a brand for ourselves, what are the tips or tricks you could suggest to us? And if we are to work under a brand like Swiggy, Zomato, Uber, Ola, whatever, what would we need to do to ensure our ratings are high? Because that's what I'm understanding. If my ratings are high under an umbrella, then automatically more work would come to me. Right. So I've given you all two questions there, and you all could both discuss it.
I think first, is it okay if I go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think first and foremost for both umbrellas is working really hard and being honest. I think that's the most important. If you're honest with what you're doing and if you're working hard, I think there's no challenge. Be it someone who's under an umbrella or someone who's doing their independent work. If I'm genuinely putting my 100% effort into writing a story, and say if I'm putting 100% of my effort in ensuring that the order that I'm supposed to deliver from restaurant A to reach to customer C is reaching with in the fastest possible way and no hassles to the customer, I'm doing my job the best. I'm getting good ratings for that order. And say if I'm doing a good job when I'm writing a story and I'm putting my 100% efforts in and I'm honest with what I'm giving out to whoever's asking for it. I think that's essentially what creates your brand, right? You can, so when you go on say Upwork, for example, to look for someone who's for any of these gigs, right? The first and foremost, like Suhail said, I think is the rating that you see, and secondly, you see reviews, right? You see what they are doing and how they are doing their work. If I see a lot of reviews where people are saying that this guy gave his 100% and I'm happy with the quality of work that was given, so quality becomes very important to the kind of work that you're doing. So those two things I think become the base of wherever you want to start. I think Suhail can add on to something else if I think.
Go ahead, Suhail.
Yeah, I think there are two aspects to it, right? One is when you're working on a platform, then it becomes a little easier because that platform is attracting customers who then sort of discover you, right? You have a better chance of discovery. But the question is also about when you're working off a platform, right? You are good at what you do, but how do you get the word out there? That's the real challenge. So, and I think that's where a lot of marketing needs to happen. And I think that's also how the whole influencer, economy has got built up over the last couple of years, right? And it's a fairly recent sort of phenomena. I think, yeah, I think marketing, the ability to market is very important. Now, even within influencers, you've got Bollywood, then you've got your, the 1 million followers Instagram, but you've also got micro influencers, right? You've got admins of society WhatsApp groups. These are powerful influencers, right? So it's about being smart about how you get your word out there. Who are you leveraging to get your word out, to get the word out there about what you do? So I think that is important. Of course, I think in India, while we do have, there's Urban Company, that's a platform that brings the blue collared and gray collared workers out there, and there's Zomato, Swiggy, etc. We don't have platforms that bring the white collar jobs, right, onto the platform. And the US has something called Thumbtack, where you'll find everything from, you'll find home chefs, you'll find bartenders, you'll find singers, you'll find writers, you'll find, chartered accountants, etc. So there is a need for a platform. And we used to do that, in fact, in our early days, but we moved away from that. So I think platforms do help, because then for a gig worker, that additional effort spent to market himself is
it's saved.
Yeah, it's saved.
Okay. Just to inform you, Suhail, CoLaBoRate is an app that is now going to be bringing all these people that you mentioned. In fact, so we are not only focusing on the bottom of the pyramid. We are talking about quality assurance people who do mystery audits, your financial audits, your cost control. We are planning on getting them on the app, and we are working towards it. So that's where CoLaBoRate would come in, which is connecting your gig workers to the companies and directly. So we are not going to be taking a commission or anything. We're just putting you in touch with each other. There are questions coming up, and although it's a little early for me to go into the questions, but since they've come in early, let me give you one question which has been a sort of a pet question, which has come throughout all the programs we have done literally. So I'm anyway going to put it forward to you all. How do I make my in-laws comfortable with me being a gig worker? So this came as, how do I make my, that means say a guy is proposing to a girl and then she takes it to her parents, or he goes to the parents and says, okay, he's a gig worker. So in fact, Suhail, Avril was on the last show, you must have known, and she said that she wouldn't be comfortable with her daughter coming home with a gig worker. Whatever that is. So, do you all have a problem when you all are hiring your gig workers? Do they say, sir, हम लोग permanent नहीं, इसके लिए शादी का problem हो रहा है या जो भी है? Don't want to spend too much time on this one, but go ahead.
No, but this, a lot of our beauticians used to say that, right? That their in-laws were not okay with them traveling around. They preferred the fact that they were, in one sort of salon and they had a fixed time. So with the female, gig workers, this was a concern. But I think the ability to show them that, you could really catapult your earnings and give your family a better life helped. It was also, I think what also helped was getting the buy-in of the husband, right? We have lots of examples where we have both husband and wife working on the platform.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but this is a very real problem. I think it's about you being able to show them that, hey, you can earn a certain amount of money, right? Because the view of gig work is that the amount you're going to earn is not fixed every month. You could bring home, a ton, or there could be a month where you'd bring home nothing, right? So that consistency is not there.
Okay. There is another question which is not really related to this one, but I'll anyway give it to you all. Is there any provision for insuring giggers against accident? I think Suhail had an answer earlier, and I think Rohan also would be doing something on that. Do you all insure the gig workers? You mentioned that earlier.
Yes, we do.
We do as well.
Okay. Aggregators are taking the world by storm. In what capacity can I get a gig work with an aggregator, BA in economics? So do you all, I'm going to put this to you all, would you all require a BA in economics for the economic background for gig work in your profile, job profile that you are hiring? I can see Rohan. No.
No, I don't think so.
So actually, I'm going to take this on in a different way. There's a lot of stress on kids, do arts, science, commerce, blah, blah, blah. Do you all find that restricting growth in where you have been not necessarily gig, but even permanent employment? Is it a factor?
I don't think so. To be very honest, I'm a science background graduate. I've done nothing related to science. Whatever I've done in my personal and professional life is based on what I've learned, based on the environment around me, and based on what I like to do. My brother is a slam poet, and he's done commerce. He's done BBA. There's no relation absolutely whatsoever, but today he's doing what he's doing very well and very successfully. And I think it's just that if you know where you want to go, and if you know what you want to achieve, and okay, these are the skill sets that I need to acquire to be able to reach here, I think there's no restriction based on what you studied or what your graduation has been in. The world is your oyster.
I'm going to say something that's slightly politically incorrect, but as a country, we are still very far from, recognizing diversity and inclusion, right? Every company wants to hire BTechs, right? And if the company can afford it, then they'll hire BTechs who are out of IIT. So, there is still that view that, you need to do engineering to get a good job, and companies are proving it. So, I think we're significantly far from recognizing that you don't have to have an engineering degree to be able to do a certain job, right? Like a lot of BTechs from IT go on to do MBAs and then get into a finance profession, right? But that's only because they have that degree out of IT. So how does that make them better at finance? If they can do it, then anyone can do
say taking it like, say I've come out of college or I've come out of school or whatever it is, and I want to look for a job. And I've decided I want to live in the gig space. That means I do not want a permanent job because I like, the idea of doing gigs, maybe playing music on the weekends or doing stand-up comic, and also doing a job maybe with an urban company or whatever. How should I start off? Where should I apply? What should I do?
Sorry, Dominic, help me understand. One is that, yes, you have a degree.
Or I'm just out of school or college, whatever.
In that case, you need to be really good at something, right? To be able to be a gig worker. Like actors are gig workers.
Correct.
Right? So what they study really doesn't matter.
But let's say I'm delivering food, or I can. Would the urban company or any other company similar in your space train me to do the job that I'm required to do, or would I need to have those skills beforehand?
We train, we wouldn't skill. So
sorry, your voice broke there. Sorry, we've lost you.
Train, but we wouldn't skill. You'd be expected to have.
Okay, I'd be expected to have the skills and then you train me. Yeah, we're losing your voice.
Yeah.
Okay. And Rohan, what would the criteria be to join you all?
So I think for us, it's very simple, right? If there's not a lot of work that goes into, you just need to be able to ride a bike and deliver orders from point A to point B. So it does not necessarily come in with, say, you need a degree or you need a skill. You need to be able to ride a bike and maybe spend a few hours on in the day to have that done. So I don't think in particularly when I talk about Zomato, I don't think a degree or a particular skill set is necessary. It's always great to have a skill set, because then that's how. So we also have categorization of riders. So if you are an English speaking rider, you obviously get you are assigned to a more premium restaurant. So I would want someone who knows English, or someone who's well groomed to be a rider who goes to a Marriott to pick up my parcel, or or deliver my parcel to a premium customer who's ordering from me every day. So someone who has those skill set. Of course, you have skills, it's always better, but for us, I don't think that is a criteria to start working.
So this is interesting, because what I'm hearing you all say is, earlier when I spoke about branding, you can have a brand built for yourself, or you need not have. Here you are saying you can have a skill set, or you need a skill set, or you may not have a skill set. So it seems like it's open jungle for everybody, whether you are you have the English speaking ones that you would give a certain category, I mean, put them in a certain zone, and the non-English speaking ones, right? Just curious, how do you decide what's well groomed and not well groomed? Because you're not giving a uniform, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So again, compliance with wearing uniforms, compliance with carrying your delivery bag, all of that comes into a criteria. So whenever a rider goes to a restaurant, the restaurant also has options to rate the rider based on if he was wearing his uniform, if he was carrying his bag. Now with COVID, if he was wearing a mask, all of these factors do come into play. So that helps us assess if a rider is compliant with.
And all this would come down to a score.
It does.
So the rating or the score is what is most important to them. And see, both of you all have been in different companies before. Would you, we have this appraisal system in organizations where, you sit down with your boss and you get appraised, etc. Do you find that appraisal system much more fair, meaningful than the system that you're using for your riders or your mechanics or your beauticians, where it is just, 1, 2, 3, 4 sort of a thing? Which one would you say is better? Oops, my phone went down.
Are pretty similar. No, I mean, at the end of the year, when I'm getting appraised, even I get a rating out of 5 saying, hey, this is the work that we've given you. This is what we think you've performed out of. Here's your rating and here's your appraisal. So I think the rating is universally the system which comes into appraisals. Again, I'm not very sure of how traditional companies do appraisals, not having worked at one. But in most of the new age companies, you do get a rating. You are told
a point system.
Yeah, you are told what you were supposed to do, what you've done. How does that weigh in against what you were supposed to do? You get a rating, and that's the basis you get your appraisal. So I think it's pretty similar in both aspects.
Suhail?
Yeah, ratings, are prevalent in our appraisal system as well. In fact, we've been trying to revamp our appraisal system to make it as objective as possible, right? So that there's, no potential for bias to creep in. It's all based on output, right? So the more objective it is, the more fair it is.
The more objective it is, the more fair it is.
And even in my last job where I was with ITC, again, we followed the rating system over there. It was alphabetical, but there were lots of parameters, and you had to put a score against each parameter, and then there would be a weighted average that would come out at the end of it. So it was, I think that's the way to go.
Okay, now there's one very interesting question that's come up. Would you all become giggers? Would you all be gig workers? Given a choice. Rohan, Suhail.
I'd love to be very honest. On a lot of occasions, I've also thought about it. One was when I was right out of school, when I had 3 months of vacation. I was like, I want to do something and earn my own money, right?
Will you consider stand-up? Because I heard you.
Yeah, of course. So I think I would. So to be very honest, I love cracking jokes. I think I'm a funny person. But it's only I would love to do stand-up on weekends. It's just that push of, if I'm good enough, that makes me not want to go in an open mic and try myself out. But I'd love to do it. If I had the time, and if I thought that I can I can make the audience laugh and entertain them for 30 minutes, I'd love to do it. No two ways about it.
Suhail, you're smiling.
No, I would too, and I've done a little bit of it myself. I lived in Japan as a child, and would take English classes for some Japanese kids. So yeah, and it was good money. To be able to earn about 300 rupees an hour 20 years ago was good money. So yeah, why not? And I do think about it also, right? Like if I'm able to sort of move away from formal employment, then I don't mind, becoming a consultant. And consultants are giggers.
Yes. So there are some very direct questions to Zomato and Urban Company, which I will skip over because I don't want you to represent your companies. But do companies have a policy to promote giggers? This is just generally speaking. In the companies you're dealing with, have you found that companies are trying to move their permanent employment or permanent employees to gig workers? Before I actually open that to you all, just reminding the audience, or rather, I'd like to tell the audience, in case you'd like to ask a question directly to the panelists, you could raise your hand. Jervis will unmute you and you could directly speak to our panelists. Yeah, so back to you all in the meantime.
Yeah, I think it's a very good option for companies to consider. Why I say that is a permanent employer. Again, whatever I say is what I believe. It may be politically incorrect sometimes, but so this is what I believe, right? When you are a gig worker and a company is giving you a job, you do it to the best of your ability. You want to show it to them that, hey, this is my finished product and it's better than what you could have done in-house, maybe. So also because it enables re-employment. So the next time they're thinking of getting another event on, I will be considered. Not necessarily that a permanent employee would always give the best, give his best out. It may depend. Of course, I'm not saying that permanent employees don't work hard or they're not doing things to the best of their ability, but it gives them that leeway saying, hey, if I falter on this one project, I'm still going to get my monthly salary at the end of the month. No one's firing me. But for a gig worker, it becomes really important to ensure that the project that they are delivering is top notch, else they're not going to be rehired. And for a lot of gig workers, word of mouth is a big way of employment, right? So if tomorrow I hire someone and so we had someone come into our house before COVID for a chef, right? Who made a few items, and we really like the way they work. We really like the taste of the food. So my mom was telling her friend, saying, hey, we got this person and they were really good. Next time you have an event, you should try them out. And that's how word of mouth spreads, and that's how they get re-employment. If they didn't do a good job, I'm not going to recommend them. So it becomes very crucial for you to give the best of, so it's good for companies also to consider certain things that may not require a full-time employee to essentially outsource projects to gig workers, I think.
Suhail?
I think there are a lot of aspects where we do have gig workers working with us, right? Like in the creative field. So our ads that we do, our jingles that we do, a lot of our collateral that we do are done by independent, creative professionals. We do have one or two strategy consultants who work with us. So across functions, across levels, there are gig workers. We have had people who've moved away from permanent employment to come back as advisors, right? To answer your question, is it something that we encourage? I don't think we've really thought about it that way, right? That we sort of create evangelism around becoming a gig worker. No, but I think the way we see it is that there are enough opportunities even within the company for us to be able to hire gig workers.
Okay. So now, is there any questions from the audience? Live questions from the audience? If not, we'll move to. So before we move to your closing statements, which I'll ask you all about the thing, I'll just give you all a background about what we're doing at CoLaBoRate. So we have created a platform where companies can register, and you have liberated associates. We call them liberated associates, LAs. and they come on the platform. The liberated associate says what he is good at or what he can do, and the company says what they want. And this sort of matches them in what I'm starting to describe as like a dating app, not a marriage bureau, but a dating app where it quickly connects the dots and says, hey, you would match with so-and-so company. Would you like to apply to them? And the company then sees the pop-up saying, okay, so-and-so is looking for work with you. They can pre-assess them, pre-interview them, and then decide that, okay, we'll be comfortable to work with you. Now, this is done so this is before the actual date. And then when the date does come up, the company puts up what they require. They put up what they expect to pay. And again, the system matches basis their pre-selected people, sends out a notification to the ones that are selected saying that, okay, your bid is accepted or your bid is not accepted, but here's a counter offer. So the app actually allows you to bid and counter bid. So I could ask, let's say, for 500 rupees an evening, and the company could come back with, say, hey, we are willing to pay only 400. Are you okay with that? And if I'm not okay with it, I don't pick up the job. If I'm okay with it, I could pick up the job. I also get a scorecard which tells me how many positions are open at that company, how many have been filled up. So I can, take a intellectual call that, listen, they've got only 2 seats left. I might as well accept it. Or they've got 20 seats left. Let me wait till they, closes in and then say, okay, let me accept it. It also allows both sides to rate each other on the app, which is very similar to what you all are doing. And we are hoping to open out the space in hospitality for, let's say, banquet managers, not just banquet waiters, banquet managers, chefs, specialized chefs like your Rumali Roti, your Tandoori guys, and also in zones like your, your marketing professionals, your quality assurance people, the cost controller, the food controllers, the menu engineers. So all those aspects would then be available on the app. Now, coming back to the two of you and your closing statement, any message you would like to give out to the gig workers and tell them, how they could, anything, just, off the top of your hat, or something that you've planned to say to them, encouraging them, discouraging them, your words to the gig workers. We'll take Rohan first and then Suhail.
My only advice, I don't want to say advice. I think my only suggestion, I don't think I've reached that level to give advice to anybody, but my only suggestion would be just keep doing your best, keep working hard. I mean, and like Suhail said, right, marketing is one very important aspect. Your discoverability will help you reach where you want to reach. If you're doing really well, but nobody knows about what you're doing, it will be difficult for you to grow up and scale up. So I think working hard, working honestly, and making sure your material is reaching to whoever out there it should is very important. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Rohan. Suhail?
Yeah, I think a lot of us have unfortunately not been able to follow our passions, right? Might be good at something, and how do you create that into employment? And that's what gig is, right? You're basically creating employment out of your passion. I feel if someone has the resources, they must do it, right? To be able to earn off your passion, that's fantastic, and that's what sports players do, that's what actors do, and that's, again, I keep coming back to influencers because it's become so big, right? They're doing it. But it is also India, and we are always constrained by what society says and society thinks, and what parents say, and that's really the challenge, right? There will be, I think it's an uphill climb.
We've lost you. Your voice.
What they do, they should definitely. Sorry, I said if someone is passionate, and if they're passionate, they're going to be good at what they do. They should follow through with creating an opportunity for themselves. But it's also important to have a fallback.
What would the fallback be?
I think fallback is education, right? Like, of course, you have a degree. How are you able to use that to be able to get a job, right? So I think it's important to have a fallback, because the pandemic has taught us that there should be an option B. Otherwise, you can be in a tricky place.
Right. So actually, there's something in LinkedIn or LinkedIn Learning, which their CEO, I'm forgetting his name now, wrote, and he said you have a plan A, you have a plan B, and you have a plan Z. So A is your plan A, B is your plan B if A doesn't work out, and plan Z is your final stop. So I think what you meant by education is that, if everything else doesn't work, I have my degree, which I can use to get decent, stable, consistent, persistent employment. So very good to have you guys on the show, Rohan and Suhail. There's something interesting that I realized. Firstly, I have to tell you all have been, like I mentioned at the start, the youngest panelists we've had on this program. Okay. But very interestingly, so there's another group chat that I'm part of, monitoring this whole show. And they said, very down to earth boys, very interesting take, and seriously, very interesting takes you all have been giving us, and very today in terms of the information that we got. So I really liked the show myself. And also, one more interesting aspect is the three of us have got beards. The three of us are from Dada Catering. And I happen to be 18 years old and a couple of months, maybe 100, 200, 300 months. So yes, the youngest panel. So thanks guys for being on the show. Thanks participants for listening in, and do join us and let's collaborate. Thank you guys. God bless. Keep rocking.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dominic.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Dominic. Thanks for having us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.